Construction and Public Safety come to order. Alyssa, please call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Here.
Schnelting.
Here.
Brown. Gregory.
Here.
Shore.
Here. Brown. Here.
Washington. Weber.
5 being present, we do have a quorum, so we'll go right into the hearing. We're not going to do executive session today because our 2 Democrats have the flu, and so we're going to wait a couple days to give them an opportunity to vote on some of the stuff we've got before us. So we're just going to go right in the hearing, and we're going to start with Senate Bill 133. Senator Schnelting, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just go ahead and present whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Travis Fitzwater, Senate District 10, presenting Senate Bill 133 before you. This is the dig right bill, the 811 bill that folks that want to do any construction have to call into and ensure that they're marking where there are utilities. And in 1976, this Missouri passed the original 811 language. It was changed here and there through since then. The last time we changed this language was 2014. In 2022, the Infrastructure Protection Coalition released some data, some reports on the safest states, and they discussed each state individually, and Missouri ranked in the bottom quartile, was identified as one of the least efficient or effective programs in the whole country. This report states that in 2019, the estimated costs were $1.1 billion per year to the state of Missouri, out-of-pocket costs. So the purpose of the proposed language is to save lives and stop wasting money on preventable damage. That's basically kind of the heart of the whole thing that we're doing here. What's in the bill, and some of it's technical, there's going to be a lot of witnesses going to come up and talk about this, but there's provisions to adopt the best practices based on national standards with the Common Ground Alliance. There's language to ensure that we're facilitating easier detection, so it improves damage prevention and mandates incident reporting through the DIRT reporting tool. And then it adds excavators to the 811 board because the people that are actually digging these holes and working on these projects should be a part of the decision-making process in the 811 board. So that's a very high-level view. There are several provisions in here. I'm happy to discuss them. There are plenty of people here that want to talk for and against this bill. What I will say is that a lot of discussions have been had. This is not the bill that will go forward. We have a lot of negotiating happening. I'm hoping that everybody comes to the table and is reasonable about how we move this forward. Some of the biggest pieces, in my opinion, one, the safety standards are easy. Having the best practices in the bill that's kind of an easy lift. The big ones are really how the 811 board is comprised. We should have excavators, the people that are doing some of this work on that board, so they have voting privileges as decisions are being made. There's some liability stuff in there that I know is being worked on by several different entities, and that will be a big consideration as we move forward with this bill. And then just ensuring that when there is marking and when there is construction being done, that there's a way to track that construction going forward. I know Senator Schroer's had an incident in his own district that was pretty concerning and devastating. It's happening more in Missouri than it should. And so this is just a fix for that. I'm glad to take any questions, Mr. Chair, if there are any.
Any questions for the bill sponsor? Proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. Again, I know this is a troubling issue. You indicated that there was an explosion in a subdivision of my neck of the woods. That's still being litigated because nobody really knows who screwed up here. Nobody knows who mismarked or didn't mark close enough. And we've seen over the summer several other gas leaks, several other strikes of lines that were mismarked or not marked properly. And as of right now, nobody has necessarily been injured. I know there's a lot of property damage out there, displacement, but as of right now, nobody's really been killed by these gas leaks yet. So that's where I kind of want to encourage the people that are coming today. Let's fix this. Let's resolve this, get it to a final solution, because I don't know when the next explosion is going to take place. But sooner or later, somebody will be in that house. Sooner or later, somebody will be in that business when it does explode. But I want to thank you again for spearheading this issue and bringing it very early in session.
And let me say, I think there's going to be a line of people that are going to testify against this bill as written. There's a lot of negotiations with those folks. We're working on mitigating the high-level concerns. We may never come to a full conclusion with everybody feeling good about it, but at least hopefully we can get everybody to neutral and we can get this language updated, because I think it's important for the safety of our communities. It's important for those that are doing the work, developing our communities. And St. Charles is growing a ton.
Yep.
We need these folks to be protected and not have all these problems. Have some really great excavators in my community. Have some really big construction folks who are laying broadband, who are doing all kinds of massive projects, and they want some clarity, and they want to make sure their business is sustainable over time, and that's going to take this being cleared up.
How many other states have modernized and updated their dig right or the regulations or laws on underground buried wires and utilities?
Yeah, so I can tell you that there are 27 states that currently include excavators and contractors on their 811 boards. So there are experts in their field that are doing some of that stuff. I've got a spreadsheet here I can get to you that shows states that include excavator contractors on their 811 board. I think these laws are constantly being shifted based on the state. So it's hard to say exactly what all the language looks like, but I think one thing that's really important for this bill is to make sure that there are people that are on the ground doing this work that are on the board making decisions alongside 811.
I agree. Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, we will enter into testimony. Is there anyone here that wishes to testify in favor of Senate Bill 133? Please come on up. Make sure you have your form filled out, sir. Just go ahead and state your name and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ed Tweehouse. I am an owner of Tweehouse Excavating here in Jefferson City, Missouri. Family-owned business. We've been in business for 65 years. We employ approximately 100 to 150 people normally. I am also representing today the Associated General Contractors of Missouri. We are 550 members. We represent all areas of construction, open shop, union, building, heavy civil, everything that can be done with construction crews. We represent those. The senator, I don't know where to start here. Senator Fitzwater did a very good job of giving my testimony for me. So I'll try to get what he missed. Like you said, in 1976, the one-call statute was put into place. After that, a more robust process was put in place in 1991. Since then, the language has been updated periodically, but not to any major extent. It's been very small changes. 2014 marks the last time changes were made to one-call legislation, 811. In 2022, the Infrastructure Protection Coalition released 811 emergency reports that discussed each state individually and provided a state quartile ranking, and I think that's what the senator was referring to in his spreadsheet. Unfortunately, Missouri ranked in the bottom quartile and was identified as one of the least efficient and effective programs in the country. This report states that in 2019, the estimated total damage costs in Missouri was approximately $1.1 billion in annual and out-of-pocket costs to the system. On top of that large amount, the report suggests that there is an additional $600 million in waste in various forms due to those inefficiencies. These numbers can be compared to neighboring states like Tennessee, which experiences $470 million in annual out-of-pocket costs to their system, and an additional $480 million in waste and inefficiency and excess costs. The $750 million difference between Missouri and Tennessee is more than enough to require a second look at current law, and how it can be improved. No matter the origin of these unnecessary costs, at the end of the day, the costs default to and burden the public as the utility customer. Additionally, the inefficiencies in the system lead to safety risks for excavators as well as the public. We support Senate Bill 133 because we believe it will accomplish two things: reducing waste and increasing safety. The bill does this by, one, incorporating new definitions for careful and prudent and reasonable care, both of which are in current statute, but they're not defined. Including best practices as determined by the National Common Ground Alliance. This will maintain the relevance of Missouri's statute and ensure that they keep pace with technology advances in the industry. The CGA best practices are released every spring with updates reflecting changes in damage prevention. These best practices are only made with the agreement of all 16 Common Ground Alliance members on the committee, and that group includes excavators, utility, public works, emergency services, and changes are not made without comprehensive process. Very good document. Providing additional methods of detection, including tracer wire and electronic white lining, is a big issue for us. Mandating the use of a free Common Ground Alliance software tool called Damage Information Reporting Tool, or DIRT, as it's referred to in the industry. That offers the ability to report breaks and damages to underground facilities. DIRT is currently used by utilities and facility owners in Missouri hits, but contractors do not use it for the most part because it's not mandatory. That results in incomplete data. We welcome this mandate for our industry. It's a burden on contractors, but we're willing to take it for the additional information we'll acquire. Last but not least, by placing 4 excavators on the 811 board, this is a practice in 27 states currently, and we believe including this frontline damage prevention expertise via excavators will benefit the industry and the public. In closing, these updates are in line with the intent of the original 811 language and purpose. As an excavating contractor, I believe that the changes outlined in Senate Bill 133 are a great step in bringing Missouri's statutes up to date with industry best practices while increasing the safety of the workers and the general public. I thank you for your time, and I'm willing to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate that. How many, by a show of hands, how many do we have in here to testify on any of the bills today? Let me see your hand. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and limit testimony to 2 minutes. Is there anyone here to testify in opposition to House or Senate Bill 133? Come on up, sir. Just go ahead and state your name and begin when you're ready.
Certainly. Good afternoon, Senator. Good afternoon, members of the committee and stakeholders present. My name is Randy L. Norden, Executive Director of Missouri One Call System Incorporated, doing business as Missouri 811. Missouri 811 is a not-for-profit organization established as the notification center for the state of Missouri from Chapter 319. Our mission statement is to enhance public safety and to prevent damage to underground facilities. Our vision statement is Show Me Zero. Zero injuries and zero interruptions. Missouri 811 is governed by a 15-member board of directors duly elected from the membership utilities and 4 advisory seats appointed by the elected board of directors to presently represent 3 dedicated seats of excavators and 1 dedicated seat representing a utility locating company. As a duly formed not-for-profit corporation in the state of Missouri, we are guided by a set of bylaws and by policies democratically established by the board of directors. Missouri 811's budget is entirely funded by the member utilities notification fees. On January 30th, 2025, Missouri 811 provided written comments regarding Senate Bill 133 to the office of Senator Fitzwater, the Association of General Contractors of Missouri, and to other stakeholders. I submit a copy of these written comments along with this testimony. These comments outlined 8 specific requests for wording changes that, if amended, would garner Missouri 811 support of Senate Bill 133. Missouri 811 presumes that the wording within Senate Bill 133 regarding changes to the Notification Center board structure is a highly controversial component of this bill, if not the most controversial, with the most common opposition worded as excavators not having a financial investment into the operation of the Notification Center, which is fully funded by member utilities notification fees. We do acknowledge that excavators have a stakeholder investment within the penumbra of the overall notification process by virtue of unfavorable downtime during for-profit contractual obligations, as well as facing billing for facility damages, an action which takes place outside of the notification process. Excavator input is recognized by the Notification Center by virtue of the advisory seats who stand with respected input but without formal votes. Our proposal would simply extend the process of the input coming from our advisory seats, however additionally receiving a vote capability, and would be subject to the same benefits and limitations from our bylaws and policies that affect all other board members. The remaining 7 requests...
Sir, I'm just going to say that I'm sorry, that was your time. If you could
Okay.
just kind of succinctly summarize real quick. Or
Missouri 811 applauds all reasonable legislation that improves public safety and helps to protect damage to our vital underground infrastructure in keeping with our mission statement. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I respectfully submit this testimony today in opposition.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Is there anyone else or any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony, sir. Anyone else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 133? Testifying in favor? Just go ahead and step on up, sir. Just state your name. Make sure you have your form filled out. Begin when you're ready.
Morgan Mundell with the American Council of Engineering Companies of Missouri to go on record in support of the bill. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? It's probably the quickest testimony in this committee I've seen so far this year. Thank you, sir. And testimony, anyone here to testify in opposition? Anyone else to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 133?
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Fred Ryan today, representing the Missouri Association of Municipal Utilities and the Association of Water Districts, and we just want to go on record as filed, and we look forward to working with the senator to get this straightened out. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Appreciate it, sir. Any further testimony? Anyone here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 133? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else in opposition to Senate Bill 133? Further opposition? Go ahead and just state your name and start when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Kina Iman with Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District. We have issued some concerns to the senator in the past and are happy to work with him again this year. But we are opposed to the current process, or the current law language.
Current
in the
version.
bill.
Thank you. Any questions from the testimony, or from the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone here to testify in favor? One last chance for 133. Okay. Anyone else for opposition?
Got forced into it. Angie Schulte here on behalf of Missouri MCTA, the Missouri Internet and Television Association. Our concerns probably mirror those of Mr. Norton, especially having to do with the board members of the excavators and just some other technical issues that we are working with the senator on.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 133? Please step up, state your name for the record, and proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Zach Pollock with the Missouri Natural Gas Association. Just want to go on record in opposition to the bill as filed. Look forward to working with the sponsor on coming to a compromise.
Great. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 133? Just state your name and start when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. John Hensley on behalf of the Missouri Energy Development Association. just going on record in opposition to the bill as written, share the concerns raised by Missouri 811, and hope that everyone can work together to address those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Thank you. Thank you very much. Further testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 133. Just go ahead and begin when you're ready, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Derek Leffert, registered lobbyist and head of government affairs for Gateway Fiber. We are both a utility and an excavator, and I'm going to take a different approach than what most of the previous witnesses have said. I don't believe this bill goes far enough. There are a number of different things that are not included in this bill, and I would say that probably the thing that lacks the most is a lack of equitable enforcement. Currently, that's left to the Missouri Attorney General's office, and I will tell you that the Attorney General's office has not engaged in any enforcement activities any substantive enforcement activities against utilities. It's primarily been almost exclusively against the excavators. I will tell you that I personally had submitted a complaint this year where I had evidence to prove that the law was violated over 900 times in a single year by one specific utility. I submitted that in July and submitted it again in November with updated numbers, and have yet to hear back from the AG's office. Back in 2018, I can tell you I've been around this particular process around the one-call system for quite some time, and as a matter of fact, I've probably written some of the language in this statute. There was a circumstance in 2018 where the utilities violated the law, black and white, no equivocation whatsoever, over 600,000 times. And not once was anything ever done against the utilities for violating that law. So in order for this to be equitable, and I say this as a utility, we need to make sure that the utilities are held accountable for the actions or inactions, just as the excavators are held accountable for their actions or inactions.
Questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony. We'll go back to those in favor. Is there anyone else who may have walked in who's in favor of Senate Bill 133 who would like to testify? All right. Anyone else in opposition? Is there anyone here for informational purposes only? Just begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is John Barget. I'm appearing here today on behalf of the St. Louis Home Builders Association. I'd like to thank Senator Fitzwater and representatives of the Associated General Contractors for working with us over the last year, maybe 14 months. We have submitted some language to the Senator and to them for consideration. I think it's rather minor in the big picture of things, but they're giving it some consideration. We feel good about that. It's fairly simple. When you're placing stormwater and sanitary sewers in a residential development, most of the time, according to our excavators, they are 6 feet deep or deeper, which should not pose a problem here. Some of our excavators have even pointed out that at that depth and even beneath a basement, they're curious as to whether tracer wire would ever even be detected. But that's what we've been talking about. I appreciate the Senator's consideration and the committee's.
Thank you for your testimony.
I'm sorry. We would be fully supportive of the bill with that addition.
Thank you. Any questions? See none. Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else in here for informational purposes only?
Take me 2 minutes to get my big ass
There's two other chairs over there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Larry Ployce with Spire Missouri Natural Gas. From an informational purpose, I think the parties are working together, but I think there's some data that needs to be taken into consideration here. Obviously, our stuff, when it escapes, has a tendency to go boom, so it's an extreme priority for us to maintain the safety and reliability of our system. Since 2020, the cost to Spire's customers, and let's make no mistake, our customers pay these bills, has gone up 50%, from $9 million to $14 million. The tickets have gone up 44% in the last 10 years. The residential locations have gone down 5%. 84% of the locates that we currently see on the system come from contractors. And a question I've raised before is when you deal with the concept of taxation without representation, This is a little bit like representation without taxation. Now, I trust the board is going to figure this out, and I think that's the location where all the issues should be addressed. But in this case where you provide representation and there's no taxation because the underground facility owners pay for the entire cost of this system to keep the public safe, to keep the employees safe, keep the equipment safe on the job site, I think that needs to be reviewed, especially in light of most of this stuff is fiber deployment, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, that are coming to the state for a good cause. But those projects don't pay for these locates. Our customers do. So it's just something I would like for you to consider as you're looking into this. And I would also want to empower the Missouri One Call system to address these issues. That's where all the data sits on all the things that you need to make a decision. I want them to vote, and I've got a new member here, so we're in this vote together. I got a new member on that board. Vote on these issues to provide direction for this body, because it's what they deal with. And with that, I'll close on my comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify for informational purposes only? Just go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Members of the committee, Zach Monroe on behalf of Ameren, Missouri, here to testify for informational purposes only. I want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Ployce from Spire and Mr. Norton from 811. We believe that everyone can get on board with this, with those changes recommended by that board. I would also call attention that it was brought up diggings that have occurred. We're very concerned with diggings, as did everyone else is. We operate a gas utility, electric utility with underground service for both. That is very dangerous stuff. Just in 2024, we had 800 dig-ins on our electric and gas system combined. We want to make sure that this system is responsive and that we have folks calling those in so we can go out and investigate that. And we feel different things in this bill would detract from that happening. And we feel the language provided by 811 would assist with that.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to testify for informational purposes only? Just go ahead and step forward, state your name for the record, and begin when you're ready.
I'm going to be very brief, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Tracy King.
Any questions for the sponsor or for the testimony? Thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Anyone else here to testify for informational purposes only? All right. Anyone else? That's going to conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 133, and we're going to move into public hearing on Senate Bills 81 and 174. Senator Gregory, whenever you are ready.
Go ahead, Senator, when you're ready.
Well, this is fun, Mr. Chair, and I guess I'll talk
Welcome
to myself.
Welcome to the Senate.
As a member of the committee also, State Senator Curtis Gregory, 21st District, and also going to be presenting Senate Bill 174. I'm Senate Bill 81, Senator Weber, who is out sick today, so just imagine he's sitting here next to me. Maybe he's listening in, but the bills are identical, so I'm going to move forward with presenting them. You might ask how two senators come together to present something together, and the best thing I can say for you is the warehouse for one of the companies involved with this legislation is actually in my district. The headquarters is actually in his district, so we're coming together on a very important issue. And I'll just give a summary of the legislation, and we've got some experts here that can probably answer any questions that I guess, well, Chairman, you might have on the legislation. But the summary of this legislation, the state of Missouri is a leader in the fireworks industry. From retail sales to commercial displays to wholesale and distribution, Missouri is the home to some of the largest fireworks importers and distributors in the United States, as well as home to a robust retail market and globally recognized firework display companies. The fireworks industry provides employment opportunities to Missouri citizens as well as tax revenue to the state and local governments. The current fireworks law was enacted in 1985, so it's actually older than I am. And hasn't had substantial changes since then. There was a little bit done in 2004, so it's been 20 years since we've looked at any of this. And since then, it's changed dramatically, as with anything in business that you look at. We've had a lot of changes. One of the main ones I've learned about since filing this has been articles pyrotechnic, and I'm sure someone will explain that to you a little better than what I might be able to in a minute. Objectives of the bill are to update fireworks safety and with smart legislation, clear and unambiguous statutory language, enforceability, give our enforcement agencies enforceable standards and the ability to appropriately discipline bad actors. Modernization, make the Missouri law more modern and in line with industry standards, and protect Missouri businesses, ensuring a level playing field for Missouri businesses by creating and enforcing the same standards and requirements for both Missouri businesses, residents, and non-Missouri businesses and residents. I can truly say I've seen everyone come together that has an interest here, from retailers, distributors, and to the State Fire Marshal's office. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll take any questions.
I have no questions for you, Senator.
Sounds
very
great.
well done.
Let's get on to testimony.
Anybody here to testify in favor of Senate Bills 81 and 174? Go ahead and hop up here when you're ready. Please leave a witness form. Thanks for being here with us.
So my name is John Walker. I'm here on behalf of Spirit of 76 Fireworks. As Senator Gregory indicated, we're headquartered in Columbia, Missouri, but our big distribution facility is in Boonville, Missouri, and Cooper County. I'd just like to echo some of the remarks that the Senator made. I think the industry as a whole has changed a lot since 1985. It's changed a lot since 2004. So we feel that we have a smart legislation here that's going to be very high on fireworks safety, have some clear and unambiguous language so that we all can know exactly how we need to comply with the law, that focuses on giving the law enforcement agencies the right enforceability to control fireworks and to regulate fireworks in the state of Missouri, and as well as to modernize the fireworks law into current terms. We've gone back through and we're working with other fireworks industry members throughout the state, as well as the State Fire Marshal's office, to kind of come up with what I would like to refer to as smart legislation. And I think what you have presented to you is something that is going to bring the fireworks industry in the state of Missouri up to the current standard of care that's located in the United States. So with that, I don't have anything further to add at this time, but if you have any questions, I'd be love to address the questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in favor of the bill. The bills. Come on up. Proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Tom Dixon with Atomic Fireworks in Arnold, Missouri. We are on the consumer side of the fireworks industry. And just so you know, that's the kind of fireworks that the category that the public can buy and use at home. And we're primarily we're importers and seasonal retailers. So really just want to make sure that the committee understands that this bill doesn't change anything regarding any local city or county regulations that may supersede the state law. It's merely an updating of citations and terminology, and it doesn't affect the way any retailers or distributors operate in the state. So just like to make that point clear, that it's really just an updating and not a change in how people operate.
Great. Thanks for that clarity. I do appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
Questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill? The bills.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and member of the committee. My name is Heath Clarkston. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri Fireworks Association. Really nothing to add other than I would mention that, this bill is a work product of about 3+ years of the industry, working with our state fire marshal, trying to bring all the parties together. And it's truly a modernization bill because the current industry isn't reflected under current law. So in 21 years, we've evolved. And I'll end with Missouri is a very good state for fireworks. We have a lot of companies that are nationally and internationally domiciled in Missouri that sell across the country. So this is a very important industry for Missouri.
Great. Thanks for testimony and questions. Seeing none.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill? The bills. Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in opposition to the bills? Seeing none. Anybody here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing. Any closing remarks, Senator?
I think there's a very big celebration coming up in 2026, so it'd be nice to make sure that we have this done in time so we can have the best 4th of July celebrations possible.
Seems like the
in another
retailers
year and a half.
around my district are only growing and doing extremely well. They're great. So thank you, Senator. All right, we'll move on. That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bills 81 and 174. We'll now go to Senator Nurrenbern. She made it in safely, thankfully. Senator, you can proceed when you're ready on Senate Bill 92.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, I am Maggie Nurrenbern, serving the great people of Senate 17 in Clay County. Senate Bill 92 expands authority of mutual aid for law enforcement agencies, including in non-emergency situations. The bill simply allows law enforcement agencies to help each other in the event that additional resources are necessary. This is especially crucial right now when departments are facing shortages. Sections 3 and 4 include the safeguards to ensure appropriate use, liability protections, and accountability. This is a bipartisan bill I've carried it the last 2 years, and Representative Jeff Myers is a sponsor of the House, and it passed out last Friday. This is a time-sensitive bill as Kansas City and Missouri prepare to host the World Cup. It's crucial that law enforcement have the ability to request assistance from a larger scope of resources. And it's imperative for the safety and security, not just of Missourians, but for all who come to our great state to visit for the games and for the events. I'm happy to answer any questions, or I have my chief expert here, our chief of police of Gladstone, who's an expert on all things mutual aid, Fred Ferris, from the city of Gladstone.
Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 92? Come on up. Please leave a witness form for our records and proceed when you're ready, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Just for some historical perspective, I'm Fred Ferris. I'm the Chief of Police with Gladstone Police Department. I'm also speaking on behalf of the Missouri Police Chiefs Association and the Metro Chiefs and Sheriffs Association, which is our metropolitan Kansas City area association. This is really an extension of kind of a labor of love I've had for about the last 13 years. We signed 44.095 into law back in 2013 that basically did the same thing that this bill will do, except a very localized region of Kansas City, and it only allowed that assistance to come in from those bordering counties on the Kansas side of the state line in the Kansas City metro. It also limited it to critical incidents that were defined as those incidents that could result in death or serious physical injury. Where the second half to that was that we got it passed in Kansas, except Kansas expanded it to the rest of the state and allowed those chief executives, being the chief of police, the sheriff of a county, or their designees, to make those requests for any assistance anywhere in the continental United States. So, for example, I know there's been a lot of talk about the FIFA World Cup coming to Kansas City and the United States. We know for a fact that the law enforcement agencies just in the Kansas City area on the Missouri side aren't going to be able to staff that for that, what is it, over a month of soccer games and, well over 1 million visitors over that time period. We're going to rely on assistance from agencies in Iowa and Nebraska and Oklahoma. This cuts through all the red tape. It basically gives that authority to those chief executives to go, I need help, make a phone call or send an email, and grants those police officers coming into that state or that jurisdiction the authority to act as law enforcement with the securities and protections that would be afforded to any of us doing our jobs. it is kind of a big deal. I know this is the third time we've done this. I know that it's got overwhelming support from a lot of the city leaders on both sides of the state. I've been working with the chiefs on the St. Louis side as well. They were always kind of scratching their heads wanting to know why it got limited to Kansas City the first time. So what we're really trying to do is just expand that throughout the state, give all those chiefs and sheriffs the same that same force multiplier we have in the need for assistance when we call for it.
Great. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Thanks for being here today, sir. Anybody else here to testify in favor?
Sam Panettiere on behalf of the City of Kansas City and the Northland Chamber of Commerce. Appreciate the senator bringing this forward. I think there's not a lot to add after the last witness other than we're preparing for the World Cup. Anything we can do to cut through red tape to help these departments collaborate will be important.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill? Seeing none, anybody here to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing. Any closing thoughts, Senator?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, now we'll move on to Senator Schnelting and Senate Bill 77. Proceed when you're ready, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm here to present Senate Bill 77 to the committee. Senate Bill 77 would allow for those who have undergone weapons training and have a valid CCW to carry aboard public transportation in the state of Missouri. Crime doesn't care about our race, our religion, our party status, or affiliation, our financial status. At some point or another, we'll all encounter situations where we need to or may need to utilize self-defense to protect ourselves and others and those who are innocent. Missourians have a natural right to self-defense, yet in Missouri we do strip it from them when they enter the bus or the tram terminal, and that should not be. Missourians pay for these systems with our own tax dollars, and some of these systems have been pointed out in news stories as particularly dangerous or having crime problems. I know Metrolink is just one example of that, but they're certainly not the only one that suffers from crime. Crime fluctuates. I think some of the testimony you'll probably hear today in regards to, let's just use the example of Metrolink, is that the crime is going down. Well, the crime is consistently fluctuating, but it's still dangerous. Rape, murder, and violent assault are things that are happening on our public transit system. I believe that allowing our CCW holders in Missouri to carry while they're on public transportation will aid in deterring crime. Unless there is a special circumstance that exists where a criminal intends to end their lives during a shooting, they don't normally shoot where others can shoot back. Instead, they almost always find so-called gun-free zones. They're rational beings just like anyone else. When a predator preys on a child or the elderly or the weak, they do it because they often cannot fight back. However, when we empower others to defend ourselves or to defend themselves, or at a minimum, cause criminals to think twice before they commit a crime, it'll be a crime deterrent. So allowing Missourians to carry on public transit means that criminals will think twice. But it's also not just about deterring crime, it's also about protecting the constitutional rights of Missourians. They have a right to defend themselves. I filed this legislation in the House for the last 6 years, and with bipartisan support have sent it to the Senate for the last, I believe, 3 years. So I will just open myself up to any questions the committee might have. You've probably heard it before.
Question for the sponsor? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 77? What's that?
Minutes.
Well, it's gone pretty quick, so I'm being willy-nilly at the moment. We have a little bit of time, but I'd prefer to be as concise as possible.
Stop, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Susan Myers of the 20th, here in support of SB 77. I serve in leadership roles as an unpaid volunteer with 2 national nonpartisan organizations, both focused on women and firearms. I also lead my church's safety team. For women who choose to carry daily for self-protection, it's not about giving ourselves a false sense of being safe. It's about being prepared. Gun-free zones is the top priority for women in this state who carry for self-defense, being that they directly impact our concealed carry lifestyles daily. Regardless of how many on which side of the debate show up here or at city council meetings, the fact is that is not how the Second Amendment works. A statute either violates the right or it does not. Keeping an infringement in place for perceived reasons of enhancing public safety or placating customers is called interest balancing, and the Supreme Court has soundly rejected interest balancing tests when evaluating gun laws. At last week's House hearing, a witness in opposition acknowledged, quote, "It's not that the crimes are happening on the bus. It's just off the bus and when you get down around the corner that the violence occurs." Problem solved. That means it's likely no permit holder will ever have need to draw their weapon while on their buses and trains, but they could be prepared for what may be waiting for them around that corner. There are currently 7 states that restrict carry on public transit, up from only 3 prior to the Supreme Court Bruin decision in 22. 4 of those state bans are currently being challenged, and sadly, Missouri is not yet among them. But I was invited by the Second Amendment Foundation to speak at their annual Gun Rights Policy Conference last fall. I took that opportunity to bring to the attention of some of the top 2A litigators and organizations in the country the exasperating fact that Missouri is the only Republican-led state to have such a restriction. I will continue to draw attention to this in the Second Amendment circles for as long as it takes, because I fear for the women who rely on public transit that you are depriving of the most effective means of self-defense, and it needs to be corrected. Either through you or around you, gun-free zones have got to go. And Chairman, I'd ask permission to submit a couple testimonies from Women for Gun Rights. One is from the St. Louis area and intended to be here specifically to ask for her right to carry on Metro, but her babysitting arrangements fell through. And I also have a list of current states that banned public transit and churches, just because I'm used to them being linked together, as well as current status of the ongoing cases. And I even threw in a brief explanation on interest balancing.
Thank you. We'll get that distributed to the committee. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
I'll go get it gathered up.
Sounds good. Anybody else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 77? Please make sure you fill out a witness form for our records. Proceed when you're ready.
Lisa Panette with Armorvine, and we just want to come and give support to the sponsor. And this is common sense gun legislation, and I'll echo what she said. I think this is good for women to protect themselves on public transit.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill?
Chairman Fitzwater, members of the committee. My name is William Bland, and I live in Liberty, Missouri. I am on the board of the Western Missouri Shooters Alliance. I'm here on behalf of myself and the Alliance. I and the Alliance strongly support this bill and feel it is long overdue to be enacted into law to protect some of our most vulnerable citizens. Current law prevents law-abiding citizens from exercising their Second Amendment rights at any time during the day if their activities include riding on a public conveyance. This is especially dangerous late at night, when passengers are waiting to board or immediately after they disembark. Without the ability to defend themselves, they are easy prey for would-be attackers. Last year, a federal court ruled Illinois' ban was unconstitutional. Now, that's certainly to be appealed, but we'll wait and see what happens. CCW permit holders are not the problem. They have been photographed, fingerprinted, investigated, and vetted. They must demonstrate proficiency with firearm, and police officers are 6 times more likely to commit misdemeanors or felonies than CCW permit holders. I have heard the objection that the presence of a CCW permit holder would unduly alarm many passengers to the point of abandoning public transportation. Although it was not revealed how passengers would be aware that a concealed weapon was present. It is also curious to me that these same passengers are not alarmed to the point of abandonment by the possibility of criminal elements carrying illegal firearms. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill?
This wasn't made for fat boys, was it? It's a killer attack chair.
Easy on the name calling around here. That's inappropriate. Please leave a witness form and proceed when you're ready, sir.
My name is Carl Smart. I am the Vice President of Western Missouri Shooters Alliance. And as like Bill, I speak for myself and our organization, and I and we strongly support this bill. Now, this thing's been around for a long, long time, and over the years, we've kind of got some traditions, you know? Every year we get various transportation authorities coming in and telling us that there's some federal mandate that we can't do this, and that's not true. We also get representatives from Kansas City Council coming in and telling us how much they hate this, and I find it curious that in the past few years, there's been a record gun sales, and I was surprised to find out that a large percentage were single first-time buyers, female single head of households. To me, that says that there is a disconnect between the city council, which is passing ordinances in direct conflict of state preemption, and the population at large, who are stepping up to protect themselves. Now, when I'm explaining the transportation bill to people, it's basically CCW carriers, holders. You walk from your house to the bus stop. You get on the bus, you're a criminal. You get off the bus and go to your job, you're legal. And when I explain that to people, most of the time their reaction is on something like, "Say what? Are you crazy?" I say, "Yep, it's crazy. It's the law." But you see, what I'm concerned about, and I've met a young woman in this position, that the ladies are getting off at the wee hours in the morning, and since they make so much money in the hospitality industry, the restaurants, that they ride the bus instead of calling their limousine. And the ladies are walking in the dark to a bus. In Kansas City, the buses are free, and they're having a problem with the homeless on the buses. So you get on the bus in the middle of the night by yourself, and you don't know who or what is in there with you. So I explained this to my niece, and she just looked at me and she says, "Gun rights are women's rights." And she's right. She put a real nice period on that. Well, let's see. Whoever wrote this is almost illiterate. Anyway, that's what I've got to say.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none.
No questions?
No
Oh,
questions.
think of something, please.
We got, I think, several people that want to be heard here, so we're gonna
Thank
we're
you
gonna
very
move on.
much.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill?
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Buckner. I live in unincorporated Jefferson County, and I appear here today both personally and on behalf of the Board of Directors and the 1,500 members of the Arnold Rifle and Pistol Club, where I'm the general manager. I'm here again today to express my strong support for this bill. I'd like to thank Vice Chairman Schnelting for again sponsoring this important bill. It's, as others have said, it's past time that we get this done. I've been here to testify on this bill. I don't know, I've lost count. And, you know, as others have said, criminals by definition have no regard for the law, so they're going to carry, and they use guns on these buses and trains despite what the law may say. Even by-state president, CEO Talby Roach admitted in 2021 in the Post-Dispatch op-ed that, and I quote, "It is no secret that our Metro Transit enterprise faces real and perceived security issues for the past several years." Well, that was in 2021, and nothing's improved. Less than a week after he made that statement, a young man, a 30-year-old Marine veteran trying to provide for his wife and children, was murdered on the Metrolink platform while serving as an unarmed security guard because he was not allowed to carry a gun to defend himself while working on the Metrolink. So it's just time that we get this done, and I just would ask that you all provide your support to this, and let's see if we can't push it across the finish line this year.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill? Anybody here in opposition to Senate Bill 77? Please make sure you fill out a witness form for our records.
Please swap chairs. This one is. Thank you.
Chairman, members of the committee, good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Senator. Nice to meet you this afternoon. My name is Talby Roach. I'm the president and CEO by State Development. Among other things, we run Metro Transit. And I have here to my left Kevin Scott, who is my director of security. Look, safety and security is absolutely our focus on Metrolink and has been for several years. One of the things that we are doing in those investments is investments in real, tangible law enforcement aids, including the Secure Platform Plan, which is a $51 million investment on Metrolink that includes gates and cameras, doubling our cameras from 900 to 1,800. The reason why I bring that up in this is that we need to provide all of the tools that our law enforcement partners are asking for. For instance, gates, cameras, fundamental pieces on safety and security, and what our law enforcement partners are telling us are the best ways to do that. I am not a law enforcement professional. My job is to provide what are the tools to get that done. That's why I brought Mr. Scott here, so that he could comment a little bit more specifically, because I am not an expert in this field. But with his 29 years of experience and his past experience as a chief in the city of Baldwin, I've asked him to come and include his testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. Certainly, public transportation is a different dynamic. Mass passenger conveyance is something that is different from a lot of other environments. I will echo that we're spending millions and millions of dollars to fortify our platforms. We're spending millions and millions of dollars to upgrade our closed-circuit television dynamic built into a real-time camera center. We now have the ability to live feed into our buses and our trains. So we are, without question, over the last 4 to 5 years, as we've implemented this profound layered security approach, we are driving down and holding steady our overall incident rates. In fourth quarter of last year, we sit at 6 incidents per 100,000 boardings. 40% of those were proactive engagements by law enforcement or security. So all of these positive things are happening. This certainly is not a Second Amendment debate for me. But I would like to point out my concern, and it has been for the last couple of years, about the relative lack of training it takes to acquire a concealed carry permit. I've been through that training several times. My family's been through it. And I think where the attention needs to be is we're obviously not allowing people, or we wouldn't allow people in a constitutional carry fashion to carry on public transportation. I do think there needs to be more analysis on the level of requirements for a concealed carry permit. It is very, very elementary. The proficiency courses, the actual shooting or practical courses are very, very elementary. And I would appreciate your consideration in that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. We want to leave ourselves available for questions and are happy to do so. I also offer, we're happy to sit down at any time and talk about some of these fundamental issues in your office. I invite the debate. I think that this is a very important as far as public safety is concerned. There is no right answer, but a combination of concerns are things that we should be responsive to the citizens all across the state and, of course, in the metropolitan St. Louis area. Thank you.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition?
It's broken. Oh, okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Fred Dreiling today representing the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority and City Utilities of Springfield. We run the bus system down there. Very briefly to go on record in opposition. The senator has heard me give this spiel several times, so I'm going to spare you and the committee for most of it. We do have the World Cup, though, coming up in town. There won't be any cars allowed at Arrowhead Stadium. It'll all be done by the buses. Our buses will be tying into a bus company that will be transporting our guests. We think that could present some problems. We understand some of the difficulties that happen around gun-free zones, but this particular gun-free zone is going down Main Street at 40 miles an hour, full of people. So with all due respect, we just would like to go on record in opposition. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else to testify against the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mike Winter, I represent the Missouri Public Transit Association. You've heard from the St. Louis and Kansas City side. Those are members of the organization that I represent, but there are also in excess of 30 other transit providers from around the state who have also voiced their opposition to the bill. We've been in front of the committee in past years and expressed our opposition, so I wanted to do so again today.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Anybody else here to testify in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Cooper today representing the City of Kansas City, the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, and the Civic Council of Greater Kansas City. We have the voice of the business community in the city who wants to go in opposition of this, and I've testified for years against this legislation. One thing that never amazes me is the fact that no one from Kansas City is lined up in the hallway to ask for this. And I hope you'll remember that. Everybody here who supports this, they're not riders of the system. They're not residents of the city. Our folks are not asking for this. And there is no correlation whatsoever between people who purchase guns and people who think they should be able to carry on public transit. And with that, I'll stop and be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Chairman.
for testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thank you so much to the committee for hearing my testimony today. My name's Kristen Bowen. I'm here on behalf of many volunteer leaders of the Missouri chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I'm a resident of Columbia, where I've lived for 20 years raising my 2 boys, and I'm here on behalf of Moms Demand Action to urge opposition to SB77, a bill which would force guns onto public transit. Missouri law currently prohibits people from carrying dangerous weapons on a bus or in a bus terminal. This bill would force public transit systems to allow individuals with CCW permits to carry hidden loaded firearms. And rather than taking steps to address the gun violence crisis that we are facing in Missouri, this measure will simply weaken our gun laws and undermine public safety. So I'm speaking for an organization that rigorously advocates only for safety measures that are supported by evidence. So it's important for me to say up front, there is no evidence to support the notion that flooding our sensitive spaces with guns will reduce gun violence. We see no reason to infuse guns into more places like buses or trains. This just puts more people at risk in those spaces. Look, we all have the right to be safe from firearms when we're just trying to get from home to work or school. We should not have to fear that an armed rider could endanger the safety of everyone on a bus or a train. This bill will put even more guns in public spaces at a time in our state when we currently have so few foundational gun safety laws on the books. So I'm testifying today on SB77 also because before my husband and I moved here to mid-Missouri 20 years ago, we both commuted to work every day on buses and trains. So I do know firsthand that buses and trains are crowded, shared spaces. And I now have 2 sons who are college aged, and one of them relies heavily on commuter trains. So speaking as a former commuter, as a mom, I know we all should have the right to be safe from firearms while we're just trying to get to work or to school. But allowing an untrained armed rider could really endanger safety in these spaces. So look, the bottom line is gun violence is preventable. Our lawmakers should stand up for communities across Missouri and be committing themselves to advocating for policies that will truly address the gun violence crisis in our state. So I encourage the members of the committee to please vote no on SB 77. And thank you again for hearing my testimony today.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thanks.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill?
Thank you very much.
Anybody? Seeing none? Anybody here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 77. We don't have any more bills in the hearing. Again, we're going to exec at some point this week, ideally Wednesday, and so committee members just be ready for that, and we'll keep talking about what that looks like. So I move that we adjourn. Got a second? We're adjourned.